Well, as well as we can be, lad. As
Yeah,
well
yeah,
as we can be.
yeah, I hear you, mate.
I need some live music now, though.
Yeah.
I'm at breaking point.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming a struggle. Uh, I mean, um, obviously the last one I think that you probably had, and like the last proper big one that I had was the Hellfire one back last year. Um, and that feels so long ago.
I can't even remember it. It's
Yeah,
that long ago
it's
now.
becoming a blur. It's it's a real shame, man. Because I
Feels
did
like we
one.
never used to.
So say it again.
Feels like we're never like it never happened. It was all a dream.
It's fucking painful. It's really painful. Because I did one back in August. I did like a trance one. I don't know if you've seen happened. It was Anomaly that put it on down in Birmingham, down by me, and that was like it was like 300 people, and they just sort of did it in a field. It was kind of like they almost did two of the smaller stages, like I'm talking little mini side stages that you get at Creamfields. It was like that in a field, about 300 people, and it was fucking class. It was so good. Oh,
Sometimes the smaller ones, they're just better because it's just more intimate in it.
yeah. I tell you what, mate, it was amazing. I mean, I I sort of had the routine of going down and doing a rave for about, well, before all this started, for the previous 4 years before that, because I turned 18 4 years before that, and then for 4 years straight, every other week I was at a rave. For 4 years, every other week I was at a rave, whether it be down in London, in Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, and then to have such a long break of 6 months, it was fucking me. Yeah, 6 months, I suppose, from the Hellfire, or it would have been seven pretty much. From the Hellfire to then that one was like, it killed me. But then that wasn't like a proper one. But it was still a rave. Like it was something. It was amazing. But then it's been another what, 6-ish months since then. So I'm going insane.
Yeah,
I'm going mad,
it's
man.
not good.
Mm.
It's killing everyone now, though, isn't it? But what can you do?
Yeah, well, uh, I think certainly from what I've seen on Facebook and whatnot, I think you're definitely closer to me in the way that we think about what's going on than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
But we'll
Well,
get into that later after a few
how
drinks,
long
I
have you
reckon.
got?
You know what I mean? But the way I like to start these is by asking you, what was sort of your first musical memory in life? So, was there a song when you was really young, or was it when you got a bit older that sort of really impacted you to get into music? What was that first thing?
So for me, basically, it was the first ever festival I ever went to was V in like 2012,
Okay.
and I remember it was. But back then, I wanted to go and see like Skepta and Wretch 32 and Wiley and all stuff like that. And I remember it was the first time. I think it was the first year David Guetta put Titanium out,
Mm.
and he was on. It was him and Calvin Harris with the headliners, and I remember just like going. I thought I'll go because I like that song. You know what? Like, when you first start out, you go and see DJs based on like one song, and you're like, yeah, I want to go and hear that song and things like that. But then I just remember just that whole night was just. I was like, right, dance music is like where I want to go.
Mm.
Just something magical happened.
Really, really. So, would you say? Because how old were you been at that time then?
I mean, I was 17, maybe.
Hmm. So,
Yeah,
like,
17.
had you had much sort of musical experience before that? Like, when you were, sort of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, were you listening to music much then, or not really?
No, I didn't even like music in school. That's the funny thing. Like, I used to go play chopsticks on the keyboard, and then that was me done. And other than that, but no, I done a few lessons, like guitar lessons when I was younger, but I never really followed through with them. So
Mm,
other than that, now, like I was all football. I was like football mad, and then
mm.
I had, I ended up like leaving it all, and then I just wanted to like focus on my music. But that like I didn't even start till I was like 21, which I was going festivals for years, so I don't even know why I started so late. But that's the only regret I have.
So yeah, because funny you mentioned that. I've never really put the two together, but I sort of had a lot of my time occupied when I was younger, sort of between maybe 3, 4 years old, up until I was about 13, maybe 14, where I was a massive football fan as well. Because I was at one time, and I still like them, but you don't see anything of them. The Blues, Birmingham City. Um, but sadly, the last memory I have of them was about, I think it was 2012, when they beat Arsenal in the Carling Cup final.
They used to have a good team, to be fair though.
Oh,
But
mate, it was
I
incredible.
support United. I don't. I think we're the worst team in the league, and we're top of the league. So I don't know.
You get to see your team on TV every weekend. My team hasn't been on TV in 8 years.
Yeah, we get beat
It's a
every
fact,
weekend
man.
though. That's the difference.
What's that?
I said we get beat every weekend though. That's the difference.
There's no difference there. It's the same with us. It's hard because like I was never like a massive football head. In the sense that like I went to loads and loads of games, but like I was always a big Blues supporter because that was my local team, and like a lot of family, friends, and things like that all supported them. But yeah, I don't know. I had a few FIFAs when I was younger and enjoyed playing it, but I never got into it to the point where I was going to games all the time. Um, but as you do as a kid, you get occupied by stuff like that, like you're going and playing footy with your mates down the park or whatever, and that's like occupies a lot of your time. And then when you get into your teens, and as you get a bit older and you turn of age where you can go out clubbing and whatnot, then sometimes those things can kind of take in place of it.
Yeah, like, but with the football and stuff, it's I don't mind having a like a kick about and things now, but like you said, it's not really. You've got to be like dead set on it, haven't you? And be around the right people and have again networking, trying to find scouts and stuff like that. But
Mm.
it's one of them, isn't it?
I think football is probably sort of like the number one dream that every kid has when they're young in this country. Um, and I don't think that kids are massively pushed to be like musicians in any way, in the way that they are like footballers. Like that's the number one thing that's pushed by, pushed, well, not pushed onto kids, but that kids sort of just fall in love with, like young lads. You're just wanting to become a footballer. Like you probably had it at one stage in your life. I think most of us young lads that have been into football, we've always, when we were younger, really wanted to be a footballer. That was our thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know, I kind of fell out of love with it just slowly over time. I think more than anything because maybe, I don't know, definitely the last 5, 6 years, but maybe even a bit longer than that. To me, it's just become a complete money game, and it's got nothing to do with having homegrown talent, be the best for your local team or whatever, and then
It's just all
thriving
about
off that.
money now, isn't it?
That's it. That's it.
It's the quality. I don't even think it's as good as what it used to be when you had your Thierry Henry and Drogba's and everything like that. But
No.
it's just it's just a money sport now.
I think the best time in football was probably the 90s and the 2000s, because I remember when I was like 8, 9 years old, getting up on Sunday early for the match of the day, and you'd watch some of the games. I was talking to someone the other day about there was one game I remember Portsmouth playing somebody. I can't remember. I don't know if it might have been Everton actually, Everton Portsmouth or something like that, and it was a 7-4, and it was just like one team scores, the other team scores, one team scores, the other. It was just backwards and forwards the whole game. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And nowadays, it's so one-sided. And then you look at the team that's winning, and it's just full of French players and Italian players, and it's like, oh yeah, you grew up in the local town, did you? It's like no. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, mate. So in that case, then went to V Fest as like your first festival musical experience. So how did things sort of evolve from there? Did you start going to more festivals and raves, or?
So yeah, well, so when after that, it was the second time, the next event I went to, because I think I was still 17, and it was Creamfields. And I remember the first ever one I had, and it was when Lesso was back to back in Grosso in the Mega Arena. And then after that, it was just like any event that I could get to. And like, this is the thing with all the COVID, like, they keep saying about pubs and bars opening, but like none of that interests me. I don't like going on like nights out like that. I'd just
Mm,
rather go to like a music event. Like, if I could advise anyone to do anything, I'd say do not go on nights out. Just go to festivals and
yeah.
events and like foreign. There's nothing better than going like on a foreign holiday with all your mates, and you're all getting excited to go to the festival, and you're going to see your favorite artists and just like the whole buzz. I think
Mm,
that's why a lot of people want to be artists. Like, if someone would have said to me 10 years ago, would you want to be Cristiano Ronaldo or Armin van Buuren? I'd be like, yeah, I want to be Cristiano Ronaldo. But now I'd rather be like a good level of an artist than any like football, to be fair. But
mm. Yeah, I think if you would have took me 10 years ago and done that, like I say, relating back to what we said earlier, the exact same thing, I would have gone, and said, like, I'd love to be Ronaldo or whatever. But nowadays, that doesn't interest me whatsoever. Like, um, I think we've all sort of grown out of that, and we've got the aspirations of, becoming successful in music. Like, um,
you know,
but yeah, what I was going to say then is, so you started doing more raves, I guess. Um, so then how did you fall into, or which did you fall into first? Did you start DJing first or producing first?
yeah. So, well, ever since I was a kid, since I was like 7, I always had. My dad got me a pair of home mixes from Argos. I still remember them to this day. I didn't have a clue how to use them or anything. I knew if I moved the fader one way, I could play one side and I could play the other one. And it was just basically a CD player for me. But then after I was going to more and more events, and then I got speaking to more people, and then I started becoming friends with people who were already doing their own events back then, and like sanity events. That was something that was going when I was like, that was the main thing around like Liverpool at the time. But other than that, then I basically I got I traded I think it was like a new Mark controller, and I got the first pair of decks that I properly got were like the RXs. So I just started to use them more, and then when I was getting used to it and like doing mixes, I was just sending them to people like at events and that, just saying, "Will you mind giving this a listen?" and maybe like keeping me on a list or something. But I used to on a Friday, I used to have to go to Liverpool after I finished work, and I used to go and play, and it was in the Meadows in McGull, and it was like a Marston's pub, and I used to go there every Friday and play for like 4 hours for like 30 quid. Like, people were still eating the tea and stuff. It was,
Yeah.
you're playing tunes, everyone's just eating the food and stuff, and I'm like, fucking hell. But
That's perfect, man. I love that. At the end of the day, you got to start somewhere, ain't you? You know, that's kind of like the
that
superhero
was
movie kind of start to
yeah,
DJ.
everyone's eating the tea, and I'm just trying to play tunes. But I had some, to be fair, I had some good nights in there, to be honest. But yeah, other than that, then I just started. I think I remember the first ever event that I played with like a proper DJ was Ben Nicky for Lockout. Um, that was about, I'm gonna say, a good 4 years ago now, and that
Mm,
was like the main time that I ever played with like a big artist. But then after that, I started. I used to go. I've still got me ticket here on the wall, and it was Angelo, Size Matters, Victoria Warehouse in 2013. So I remember that was the first one I ever went. And then after a few of them, I got speaking to like some of the Life in Color guys, and then I started like doing the ticket selling for them. But I was selling like tickets and stuff for like 2 years, and then I started speaking to the guys, and they were like, we didn't even know that you could DJ, or we would have threw you on like sooner. And I was like, oh fucking hell, I've just been selling tickets for 2 years, but it's good fun. They're all good guys.
So how do you transition then from where you were DJing in that little pub or whatever for 30 quid to then get into somewhere like Victoria Warehouse?
it's just you've just got to, like, as Josh said, you've got to get out there and speak to people. Like, there's so many people, like artists that, like you said last week, that make such good music, but they just won't put themselves out there. Like, I anything to do with like press videos or videos, I'm always like, oh fucking hell, like I'm gonna look stupid or something like that. But this is the sort of stuff you've got to do to make relationships with people, and without help from anyone else. It's not the type of thing where you can get into. If you've got no help from anyone, you're not going to go anywhere with it, because
No.
it's a dog's game. But that's it. You just got to get out and meet people, and not be afraid to put yourself out there, and put the hours in, and do the shitty jobs. And after a while, things will, law of attraction, things will come to you. If you create opportunities, they'll definitely show up somewhere.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I get like I said, I've had a lot of people, and I'm almost certain that you've probably had mates of yours and people that you know, when they've seen you up on the lineup of Victoria Warehouse with these crazy names, they've gone to you, how the hell did you do that? And of course, what they want to hear is, whoever, Barry or whoever, gave me a bell and said to me, oh, can you come and play just like that? When it's just not as easy as that. It just doesn't happen like that. That they want to know that it's just an easy answer so that it's easy for them. But they don't want to hear, oh, actually, it took years of constantly going to this place. You know, it sounds like it was a similar thing to me, where you constantly go in, like I went to ministry for years, spending a lot of money actually buying tickets to go and see DJs there, and then happening to come upon somebody who can get you gigs. And I was never even looking for gigs. It just came to me. And I think it's probably a similar thing like you just said to yourself.
Yeah, like with mine with the warehouse, it was like I the first one I done was Don't Let Daddy Know, and I was just like, this is fucking mad. Like, I came here like 4 years ago, was like, as just a normal 18-year-old kid, just so that's always what one venue that is. Like, I love that place more than Creamfields or anywhere. Some of the nights I've had in there are amazing. So the same with that, but it's again like, I used to go well, I went AD with me missus in like 2015, and we went to AMF. And then at first, back then, I just wanted to. I was mainly going there to get fucked and go to shows and the festivals and that. And then, as the more I got on, like, more shows as an artist, and I got into like producing, then I was going like through the day. I'd spend my time going to like webinars or master classes or networking like stations and stuff like that, and then overnight go to the events instead of just wasting my time while I'm there.
Mm.
And then, obviously, getting some releases with the label I'm lucky to be like an A&R for. They've obviously helped me out with getting like contacts, and I done like a showcase for them at AD last year. And
Yeah.
you've just got that's it. The main thing is just to just be honest, just be helpful, and if you're going to work with someone, like, be beneficial. Don't like obviously, like you said, people come up to you and say, oh well, how did you get on that? But they're not really interested in that you're doing it. They just want to get their own benefit out of it. And I just feel like at the minute, music's gone very like commercial to me. Like, I feel, apart from like all the hard style stuff, everyone's always like, oh, that genre's finished. And I'm like, how can you say that when it's it's headlines all the best stages. There's always the DJs who are up there and stuff, but music changes now. And like, back years ago when it was like 2012 and stuff, you're there like Alesso and Showtek and Afrojack on the radio all the time, and then now it's just filled with crap.
Yeah, yeah,
To be
yeah.
honest.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I
But
mean, it comes to that funny conversation that I get with a lot of people. I had it again tonight with one of my friends, where they, obviously because the Hardwell on air thing. I don't know if you've seen it. Was his last episode last
you
night,
know, but they've
and
got a 24/7 radio, so they've got a
yeah,
backup
yeah,
plan.
there is that, there is that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, someone was saying to me, "Do you reckon he stopped it because EDM's dying?" And I said, well, no. I mean, to be honest, you look at like, obviously a lot of people think of the heydays of EDM as like 2012, 2013. But that's because a lot of us that are now going out to the raves, that was when we got into it. That's when we first learned about it. And whenever you get into something at first, whenever it's completely fresh, you're going to have really fond memories of those times. But to me, I've never understood the EDM is dead or big room's dead or whatever conversation now, because each year it's getting bigger. You look at the followers of all the EDM DJs or big room DJs, Hardwell, W Blaster Jacks, Basic Jackers, the list goes on. Do you see their following go down or does it go up? Do you see all of their tracks through the year getting less and less views, or do they get more views than the previous year? It's not a case of that. It's a case of you're not listening to it and you're maybe not hearing about it as much in wherever you're going. But it's bigger than ever and it keeps
It's
growing.
like as
Like,
well. It's like like I think because a lot of people not like a lot of my friends now. Like obviously I'm 26 in March, so I'm getting on now. But um, all them love like tech house and stuff now, and they're like well I used to love it back then, but then it was all this trap and hard style stuff, and but they'll still be like, oh, it's all that EDM, and I'm like, it's not EDM, no, that's hard style or that's trap. I was like, unless you physically know about your music, like to them you could say they'll say Charlotte DeWitt and Boris Brecker are both techno, but they're both completely different ends of the snake. So but people don't see it like that. Like me, mate, I sent him a side. He's a like massive tech house fan, and I sent him was like, "Get on this side tune," and he was just like, "Oh, that EDM man," and I'm like, "You can't just say everything is EDM. Techno's EDM, but you don't see it getting cast as that now." But like, it just seems to be a lot of. It's pushing into a lot of sounds now, like Maddox and Sparks and people like that. So
mm, yeah. Well, it's funny because like Kieran asked me the other day when we was filming one. He said to me, "Have you ever had a time where you've took a mate to a rave and they've just gone and looked at it and thought this is shit?" And I said to him, "Well, actually, if I've took out an open-minded person that wants to go on nights out and then they've gone to a rave, I've never had them go, oh, this is shit. They've always fell in love with it." But the funny thing is, like you look at a lot of the mainstream music nowadays, it's it's super duper basic stuff, and it just doesn't grab you. I mean, like you say, you used to hear all the show tech, um, Afrojack, a lot more kind of EDM
East
style
FM
back
used to
in.
have it on every weekend. There'd be like Axwell and everything on there that you could think of, but now it's just like people don't see it socially acceptable anymore. So that's why more people are like the amount of people artists now who loved it, but they're like, yeah, well, I'm gonna make techno or techno because it's easier, or I might get further. But like I said at the start, the reason I wanted to do it is to leave like a piece of me behind, which I know it sounds stupid, but like I'm not the main thing for me now. I just want to get like a release on Armada and reach an altitude and like I'd be happy, but I'm not really like focused on the main big like I don't really try and look into it that much. I just like roll with it and take opportunities as they come and just get in the studio as much as I can
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
just help out. It's like the same with Key. Like the first time when me and Key made Subsonic Bass, I went to his and I didn't even know he could produce or anything. And he was like, "Would you mind like listening to some of this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was showing it me, and I was like, "This is sick. Why aren't you like sending it to people?" And he was like, yeah, well, I don't know, and I'm a bit unsure on those. I was like, well, how long have you been producing him? He said like 6 years, and I was like, well, you need to start putting your stuff out there because
Mm.
you sat on sick music and no one can hear it.
Yeah, yeah, that is the exact problem that I come across with so many guys. They get onto, they get onto radio shows or podcasts, or big DJs start playing them, W&W Hardwell, all these guys. That's how I hear of these tracks. And they've got, like I say, I go onto the YouTube link or the SoundCloud link, and it's got maybe a few hundred listens or views or whatever. I'm like, why the fuck aren't you like pushing this out there? Like, you should be saying, I've just got to play on Hardwell on air, or Rave Culture Radio, or W&W just played my track. But there's so many guys that I see where I've gone onto the track because I love it, like it's a crazy big room banger, or it's a beefy EDM track. And I go on there and there's no promotion whatsoever. Sometimes none of them have got social medias, and I'm thinking,
Can't go nowhere with it, but as well as your brand and it's just all about your quality. Like the thing with mine, like I've still only been like producing for like 2.5 years, so for me it's still like early days. But
mm,
obviously, like I've managed to nail a sort of like sound and route I want to go with. Like through lockdown, I've just like completely just fell in love with like tech trance and like all that reaching altitude, Marlow kind of stuff. And
mm,
that for me now, that's the thing that I want to stick with. And like I said before, that I don't really focus on being like mega, but like that type of genre for me is like perfect because you've got the likes of David Forbes, Mark Sherry, all them like that are amazing artists and get supported by the biggest names, but they're just not mainstream. But they still make a good living, and they're not having to like stress about touring constantly. And to me, that'd be the ideal like final scenario. But it's still early days.
have you heard of that Exis before? I think he's had some stuff on there.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Well, I've joined an agency now and do cover like Asia and stuff, and Nexus is one of the people on him, and I've sent him a few stuff before, and then
He's
before lockdown, he played Subsonic Bass at a show, and then after that, he was just like, I said, are you doing any radio shows? And he was just like, not at the minute, but they just need to start getting the world ticking over again. But it's like Tomorrowland come out and said, yeah, well, they might have this vaccine village, but unless, like yourself, if you've been to Tomorrowland, I could not physically go all the way to Tomorrowland and book everything and then get to the front door and then do a test and they'd be like, yeah, it's positive, you can't come in. Like, what you're supposed to do then? Because
no,
it's a lot of money.
yeah, yeah, no. Well, see, the problem is at that point that's they've got two ways of dealing with it. They can either do that, as you say, but then in order to even get a sellout audience, they're going to have to ensure people that if something like that does happen and they have to turn people away because of whatever rules they've got, that they're able to refund people. But then they're going to lose a shitload of money, so they better be prepared for that. So they either do
Well,
that.
it's like, have you seen have you heard of the festival Untold in Romania?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, if you go on their website, like what they've done is you can go on there now and buy a ticket, but you can just use it for like any of the next three editions. So they've obviously got their head screwed on and just been
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, you can buy a ticket and you can use it for the next three years. But it's hard, obviously, everything's like virtual now, and it's just not the same. And like,
No.
especially with our type of music, like that. This is why I'm more happy than anything that I like this sort of music because it's like the people who enjoy it are like really connected through it and have a passion for it, not just because it sounds good or it's popular at the minute. And that's the main thing, really. Like I was saying before, like the amount of people now who've gone to make techno and tech house because they're like, well, I can make a track in like 4 hours and I can probably get further. Like, if someone offered me to do that like full time, I'd rather not do it. I'd rather be like, I'd rather make stuff that I like making and I can actually truly get like full potential out of rather than oh well, more people might like it, because there's no point doing this if you don't love it, because it just takes up all, like, I work all week, and then I come home from work, I get home at like 6 o'clock, and then I'll literally have something to eat, and then get on the laptop for like 3 or 4 hours, and then about 10:30, 11:30, I'll put a film on, go to bed, and do the same thing, and then on a weekend I'll just be like on it all day and stuff, and it's a lot of time out of obviously out of your life, because there's no money, the money's in touring, and obviously at the minute there's no shows or anything, so anyone to make like any money in that. But I just hopefully it comes back.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think, as you were saying earlier, I think that's one of the things that sort of made me fall even more in love with EDM and sort of all the different shows, is when you go to like a place like Creamfields or like Tomorrowland, and you go to particular stages where there's a particular guy on, or act or whatever on at a certain time, and you go there and you're surrounded by dedicated fans to that specific DJ, the feeling is unreal. Like, I've had that experience with like third party, when every time they play Victoria Warehouse. I've had it with Blaster Jacks when they played one of the smaller stages at Tomorrowland. Like, I was at the front row, and it was just a mix of like guys from France, America, Asia, Africa, all massive Blaster Jacks fans with me, and we're all like brothers. It was the most incredible thing ever. We're all like, every song back to front. It's the most incredible feeling ever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when I first used to go, I was like flags and everything, and that was the main thing for me. And then obviously the more you go events, the more you like understand them, and like what sort of things you like get in for and that. So that's a good thing. Like, the last year was that was the first time I'd ever even been to Tomorrowland, and I remember being like stood on the hill, and I was waiting for Alesso had just finished, and I was waiting for Van Bjorn to come on, and I was just like so pumped, and I was like, this is gonna fucking go off and that now, and I was like, but it'd be sick it would be amazing to get to that stage, but it's mad, because at first when you start out, you put mashups out or bootlegs, and like you start your own stuff. But like, I'd say to anyone, like, no matter what you do, or if you finish something and it's like it's all right, just I'd put it out there, and like, just each track, then you can just tell. Like, that's what I do. I listen to each track from the first time I ever made music to now, and like the difference in quality is getting there. But that's all you want, and it'd be sick. Obviously, imagine if you could be one of them people, and you know what it's like. You get in your hotel room, and you're like, oh, I'm going to see Van Bjorn tonight, or I'm going to see W&W, and like, it's going to be sick, and we're going to get fucked up, and it'd be sick. And at first, your mates start sharing your music, but then as you progress, you actually get like it's mad now for people who message me and say like, oh, I actually like your music, and like people are actual like fans really. But other than that, you've just got to, like, people always say to me, I don't know how to do it, because you've got to have your own brand. But like, I always say to everyone, like, I have a 30, and I'd say you've got 365 days in a year. If you can get 4 new followers every day, like 4 engagement followers, that's like an extra 1,400 followers a year. So if you look at it over the course of like 5 years, that's the way to go about it. People are like, yeah, but you need like 10,000 followers, and I'm like, no, you need an actual audience, not a lot of followers. But that is it. You need 4 followers a day, and you're on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Something that was funny, sort of like going back to what you said earlier in regards to, trends as to whether EDM, when we're talking about if EDM big room is dead, is it alive, or whatever, is like the feeling that it gives you when you're at a rave, if third party or Hardwell or whoever W&W comes on. It's the most incredible, exhilarating feeling ever. And I don't know if you've ever had it before, but like, I had a bloody argument the other day with one of my mates. He just turned around to me. He had, fair enough, if you're not massively into EDM, then there's some tracks that if they were to hear it for the first time as like their first EDM track they've heard, they might go, "This stuff's shit." But it was I shared it on Facebook. It was Blasterjack's Mystica. Don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But I shared it on Facebook. I was like, it's epic. I remember when this came out because it came out in like a revealed volume 5, I think it was, and I've got that CD upstairs. I bought it straight away when it came out. And this guy comments on my page, this is absolute shit. God knows how anyone listens to this. I just thought, I've never felt hatred for someone like that before. I was like, how fucking dare you? And the irony being as well, more so in this country than any other country that I know of, but maybe it's just because we live here. The people who are saying that, they're listening to this gangster rap grime shit where you've got some knobhead stood in front of a Beamer or whatever in the middle of the night in some factory car park whilst his 6 pals stand behind him in some shit coats or whatever that they paid 300 quid for. And this is good music, is it? Is this talking to you, is it? Is it talking to your soul? Is it making you happy? Or is it just shit that you hear on the radio? It's just like, it's like hearing Lady Gaga. It's just like...
It's like a lot of our music as well. A lot of our music, unless you hear it on like a proper sound system, it doesn't. Like I show me mate, I'm like, get on how sick this tune is, and he's just like, what do you mean? Like it just sounds average, and I was like, no, if you heard that on a proper sound system, you would not be saying that. I remember that. The first time I ever heard like side chants, and I remember I was in it. It was at AMF again, and it was like 2017, and Van Buren was like, everyone close your eyes, I'm going to put you in like a state of trance. And I'm sure it was that, I think it was that William DeVue tune, and it goes into like and I just remember I was just like, what the fuck has just happened? And then after that I was like, what is this stuff?
Well, this the thing. I mean, I don't give a shit what people think of me. I never have and I never will. But it speaks to the soul. Like when you're at a rave, there's something inside you that goes like there was a guy who was saying the other day on a radio show that I was listening to, when you're at a festival, like I've had it so many times when, you know, if you're at Tomorrowland or Creamfields, you're like, why couldn't life be like this every single day? Like I'm waking up in a tent and just around the corner, I'm going to go see Hardwell or Martin Garrix.
In a field in Runcorn.
It's like, oh. But yeah, I don't know, man. I sort of, my whole goal in life is to change completely the way that people look at music in this country, because I think a lot of countries have moved on, and I think there's sort of two sort of sides to music. You've got what we knew as music before, which is where typically in the song you'll have a singer. That's where you get, all your rappers, all your pop artists and all that, and they'll have some sort of beat behind it. But the reason people listen to it is so they can sing in the car on the way to work, Rihanna, Beyonce, Ed Sheeran, all them. And then you've got what me, you, and all the lads get into, and everyone else that gets into it, which is an amazing song with occasionally some vocals behind it, but not always. But we like the actual music itself.
Yeah,
and
that's why with me, like
people,
I've gone like that's why I love like all like the tech chants and the tech energy stuff and like the Who's Afraid of 138 stuff, because when you go and see it live, it's not none of this stop start stuff. It's like constant, and it's like on a proper sound system. It's pumping, and you've got like all sick chords and melodies and like vocals, and then like big saws and everything, and then it's just like everything put together really that obviously makes it euphoric to say, but people, it just changed. I wouldn't really, it just evolves. Like if anyone could say now, like techno 10 years ago is not the same as what techno is now. You've got all like Filth on Acid, all that Renee Zonnefeld type of techno, and Charlotte DeWitt drum code and all that sort of stuff, but it's just more like Ollie James, another good friend of mine, and he's just pushing all his rave room stuff now. But it's just like 140 rave room it's like 140 big room with like techno elements and stuff, and I think a lot of people are trying to incorporate it into the productions now to like draw people back in from like that side of the music industry. And but I definitely wouldn't say it's dead. It's just people need to like adapt with. People don't like change. That's the problem. And if they don't hear it on the radio, as I said, they don't find it good, and they're like, oh, like who the fuck's this, or this is shit. And like I used to always be like very wary of like what people thought of me, or like they were like a dickhead when I'm on stage and stuff. But I've just come to that point now where it's just like, does it make me happy? If it does, then I'm gonna do it, because after COVID and everything, I think everyone needs to just be like happy again and be able to enjoy themselves and be able to do things that they used to do. But I can't see it happening this year. Like I've got EDC booked for Portugal, and I was saying to my missus, I was like, when we book this, I'm probably like 90% sure this is not going to go ahead, but at least it's something booked, and then I've got something to actually look forward to at some point. I'm like, it's going to happen, and it's going to be sick. And
Is this the one that's in June?
Yeah, in June. But I was speaking to Kevin the other day, and he was saying like all the clubs and everything are still shut there. So
Really?
they'll probably, and Tomorrowland are saying in March that they're giving the decision on it. So it's probably going to be like April when we find out on that, maybe. But Don't Let Daddy Know's been cancelled again. And
What, for October?
no, well,
Oh, the
for
March one in
Amsterdam,
Amsterdam.
yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the UK one. Jesus Christ. Oh,
Well,
yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the thing, because
I was
like
meant to play with Ben Nicky last Easter Sunday, and I'm still waiting to play that show.
I
It's been like
remember that.
moved like 3 times, and it's in May, but or the next
That's a
Hellfire's in May,
bummer.
isn't it?
That
But
is. That's a bummer, because I remember that. I remember back at Hellfire seeing the posters for that all around the place and thinking, oh, that'll be class to go to, because I think it was supposed to be in April, weren't it?
yeah, Easter Sunday it was meant to be on, and I was like, this is going to be sick, and then it was like cancelled, and I was like, oh, because there's nothing worse than like getting to the point where it's nearly like showtime, and then it's fucking cancelled, and you've like prepared a set, or fucking you've got loads of new music to play or mashups, and you found loads of new tunes that you think, yeah, this is going to be sick. But like at the minute, on my way to work is the most fun I seem to have at the minute.
Yeah,
See me
I know
blasting
the
DIY,
feeling.
I'm like that on the way to work at fucking 8 in the morning.
Yeah, mate. Mate, I tell you what, the best raves I've had last year was in my van on my way to work, in my gardening van.
Oh,
You
every
smell
day
all
it
the
goes
grass
off
in
in
the
like
back. I'm
full
like, whoa.
blast in the car every morning. People
Yeah,
must just look at me like, what the fuck is he doing?
yeah, man. It's it's so hard being away from it. I mean, the thing with ministry is like they they go. So at the start of the year, they don't really do too much in terms of like January, February, even a little bit of March sometimes. Where I don't know if you been in ministry before.
Well, I think it was about 2 years ago. We
Okay.
went, and I was meant to go and see Laid Back Luke there, and it was when it was snowing, and it was proper bad snow. And then on the night, it got cancelled. But I was speaking to, is it Gavin? Is it? I was speaking to him, and he was like, no, come down. He was like, you can still have a good night. He was like, I'll show you the room and everything, and I'll show you where the decks are and that. And I went in the box room and everything, and I was like, oh, fuck, it would have been sick in that in there. But I've actually never seen anyone in there
Oh, so
like
the night
live.
didn't actually go ahead then?
No, like his flight got cancelled, so it got
Oh.
pulled, and I was like, ah.
But there was
So
no DJing at all.
yeah, there was is that guy who wears the panda helmet?
Oh, Pink Panda, yeah.
Yeah. It was that guy. He was on, but I was only staying around the corner, and it was still open. So I said to him, we may as well just go for a drink or something. Like I'm not. It's one of them, innit? But
Oh, that's a bummer, that is.
I know.
Yeah, well,
I know.
anyway, this just more for reference. Obviously, you know, because you've been in there, you've got two smaller rooms. You've got the one upstairs, which is the loft. It's like a techno, tech housey kind of vibe. Then you've got the baby box, which is downstairs, and sort of towards the back. And that's like a mini version of the main room. So you get all the EDM in there as well. Then you get the first room that you walk into, which is 103, which is like the one with the long bar downstairs, and that's like again tech house kind of stuff. And then you got the main room, which is all the headline and stuff like your big room EDM. But through January, February, March, they don't really open the the two small rooms, the baby box downstairs and the loft, it's called upstairs, the tech housey one. They just open up the two main rooms. Um, I guess it's just purely to do with numbers, because obviously there's a lot of people, a lot of the kids around, all the Chinese kids that are at the uni year and all the other kids that are from around the world, they fly home and they'll stay home in January or whatever, and then they'll maybe come back in March or whatever. So they don't get many people in, so it's not worth keeping them on. So a lot of like the gigs that I'd play throughout the year, we don't really do them in January, February, March. So my last gig, like I say, ended up being in middle of November of 2019. So it's been a year and 3 months now, and I'm going mad, man. I mean, the way that it all happened quite quickly, because I started my first gig in April of 2019, and then it was between April and November that I did all my gigs. So I played my first gig in April 2019 and my last gig was in November. And then obviously I was supposed to have then my next gig, I think it was in end of March, early April, but then obviously everything shut down. And so, yeah, it's just sort of put a halt to it all. But
That's what it's like with me. Like like at first when it was like lockdown, I was like, nah, like everything will be all right. Like everything's just on hold, and like I'd spent like so much time, and like it went from being like shit doing obviously like the bar work and stuff like that, and then I was getting more and more shows, and then like last year, for not well, not last year, sorry, the year before, like I had like 18 shows in like fucking 1 year, and I was like, I've gone from like 18 to fucking playing Hellfire in Feb to not knowing whether I'm even going to play again, or like that's why luckily obviously I work and things, but our work's been open the whole of the pandemic, so a lot of people who've been like furloughed and that, like Josh said, people, they've had all this time now to become like a better artist or to work on the sound and the quality of the stuff. Like I would have loved all that time. Like if I could have got off away from work and got 80% of my money to sit at home and do music, that would have been a dream. But it wasn't realistic for me with my own place and things like that. I had to work, and I can't do as much as I want to. Like I'd love to do music full time, like the hours what I'm doing now, but I try and obviously do as much as I can. And even when I'm in work, I'll just like what I've done is made like a booklet, and when I'm in work, I'll research stuff, and then certain parts what I want, I'll put on a PowerPoint, and then I'll cut them out and stick it in a book. So when I'm producing now, I've just got like one of these books, just one of them with everything just stuck in it. And then when I'm doing stuff, I can just be like, yeah, and it's there and it's on hand. But yeah, people just need to fucking just stop putting stuff on hold and put themselves out there. And
well, you see, the and we'll probably go down this rabbit hole at some point. It's inevitable anyway. But the thing more than anything, like I said in the Josh interview, is the fact that people they're fucking about with other people's lives in a big way for something that they feel is impacting them negatively. So they feel that they have to stop everyone else's lives. And it's like, no, that's not what happens. What happens is if you feel there is a danger to you, no matter what the danger is. It could be a virus, it could be terrorists out on the street everywhere. Whatever the danger is, you then make a decision with yourself and your kids and partner or whatever and your family. You can advise them as well. But you don't have the right to then go out telling other people what they can and can't do, because we are not affecting them in any way. It's particularly if they are staying home, as the government's telling everyone to do. If they're staying home and staying away from any opportunity of this deadly virus getting to them, then they're safe. And then dummies like me and you, who don't take it seriously, will die, won't we? Or we'll be fine because there's less than a 1% death rate. So it's like the thing that fucks me off more than anything is the fact that there's people like me and you and all the lads that I've spoken to through this, self-employed people. I look at DJs and producers as sort of self-employed in the sense that they're building a business, they're building a career on their own outside of a company. They're having to do all this stuff on their own. So then when people who have no idea what it takes to do these things are then saying, oh, by the way, you don't get to do that anymore because I feel I may be at risk of something. No, I'm sorry. No, you don't get the right to tell other people what they can and can't do with their lives. This is the
like
thing.
I'm saying this now, like a few people are saying, well, I've got the vaccine, and I'm like, well, I'm not being funny, but you're getting the vaccine now, and is there any fucking benefit still to me or you not having it? I'm like, you're getting it, but if you wanted to still go to the fucking pub, no, they're not going to let you in because you've got a vaccine passport. And I'm like, you just fucking. But each to their own, and like people are just sat at home and they're like, what did you do? And they said, well, I couldn't do anything. There was lockdown. Well, have you got the internet? Yeah. Well, why don't you research stuff or like try and like I've just like invested like money into like a clothing brand and things like that, and like I just want to, if your music fucks up, I want to have a backup plan, but I want to have my own like sort of business or brand, so whether that be in music or something else, but I don't want to just be going to work every day and working and helping funding someone else's dream. Why I'm just like, you've got all the resources there. Like Corey said to me, I was like, did you go to uni and to learn music? And he went, I was going to uni and then I fucked it off because everything's on the internet and everything is literally there for you to do. Like you just need a laptop, and people always say, oh, well, yeah, but you need this and that, but you don't. Like if you genuinely wanted to make music, you could just do it with a door and just research stuff and look into things. Like I like reading into things now and look at finding out obviously what artists are up to. Like at the minute, obviously no one can even go on holiday or anything like that, but I think everyone's just dying for a holiday now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you because I've worked through the whole thing, and I sort of said to myself, at the start, like I'm talking within the first few days of them shutting the whole place down, I was saying to myself, it's a bummer because I'm not going to be able to work because I thought I wasn't going to be able to work because they weren't going to let anybody leave their own house. But then I thought, okay, well, at least I'll be able to move massively with my music in terms of doing a ton more mixes, getting a load of new music into my libraries, and doing a load more mashups and just doing loads of different things. Doing this, for example, I planned to do almost a year ago, but I just hadn't got round to it because as it happens, I was allowed to work. And last year ended up being my busiest year ever with my business. So I then, from when that all started back in March, I then was working like 60-hour weeks up until November, and then November, December, 50, 40-hour weeks. And I just never got round to it. I didn't have all that spare time that I thought I might have had. And so I just ended up neglecting a few things that, in hindsight, I wish I could have maybe spent a bit more time on. But you know, there's a lot of things going on and whatnot. But yeah, like you said, it would be nice to just have that furlough money and then you can go and do whatever you want. But some of
That's
us,
what I
we
mean.
got
Like
to keep the economy going.
I know people who have put like I can just tell in the music when they said like when they like when they show me tracks compared to where they were 6 months ago or this time last year because they've spent the time and like it's like I have a group chat with like Danny and Vinny and like if someone does like needs help on something, we'll just send like or if we find like a screenshot on like EQing like there's so many like Instagram pages out there that basically give you a fucking step by step on how to do something because like the worst thing I did when I first started out with music was I tried to think, nah, it'll just be like a video game. I'll be able to figure it out. I'll be able to figure it out. And it's just not that like that. Like people don't want to watch tutorials, but you will physically not be able to do it unless you get help or research or like look into tutorials and things like that. It is hard. That's why no matter what, obviously different genres, you might not like it, but you still got to appreciate like the a lot of time that's gone into it to make it. Because some of the stuff I listen to now, W&W stuff, and I'm like, nah, no fucking way you've made that on a computer. Like, I'm not having it.
How exactly? Because I don't think we touched on that earlier. Obviously, explained that you got into DJing first, but then how did you get into producing?
It was just, do you know what? It was like, I think it was like 2017, and I got my mate put. He was like, do you want me to put a crack version of Ableton on your computer?" And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, sound. I'll have a look at it." And then I started like doing more and more stuff. But like when you first start out, everything you make, you think, "Yeah, this sounds sick." When actually it sounds shit. And like at first you're like a fucking, you've got a kick and a fucking bass, and you're like, "Oh, this is the best. This is gonna be every label's gonna want to sign this." But to actually get to that level to get your music, like the amount of times now I've sent stuff and it's just been like, yeah, it's like 80% there, and I'm like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do, and it is hard, like how hard it is to for people to get to that stage with the music, and I just want to be able to consistently be able to put out good tracks and like just get to that point and I'm be happy with what I'm making. And some of the stuff now I make, I don't even know what it is. Like it's just a fucking mixture of everything, but it sounds sick. And it, that's another thing. Like people always think I'm doing it right, but it's just a lot of trial and error. And if you're enjoying making it, and like there's no point starting a project now unless you're gonna like the worst thing I used to do is start something and then be like, yeah, let's start something new, and then I'd do another breakdown and I'd be like, let's start something new. But the best advice is just finish everything you can, and the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it.
Hmm. What would you say, sort of the past, I don't know, certainly currently, what would you say your ultimate goal is? Like, if you could say, I click my fingers now, where would you want to be ideally?
Stood next to Armin in the fucking ASOS studios, but yeah, now that's it for me. Like I obviously like for anyone you want to be like a big main act and things like that. But a lot of the goal, like when I first started, when I was like, all right, I want to do this like DJ and music like full time, like I want to properly get into it. It was just like trying to get like you said more gigs and things like that, and then I was going from like I had like 3 shows a year, and then it was like 10, and then it was like 18, and then I was meant to like play a festival in Latvia last year that I couldn't play, and I got another one lined up for one in Romania, but that's another one that's in summer, so whether it goes ahead or not, I don't know. But like it is hard, and like unless you've got the time to physically put a lot of effort into it, don't bother doing it because you just start and you'll give up. Because the amount of times, especially through lockdown, I've just been like went to throw the laptop and been like, I'm done with this shit. Like I can't be arsed with it no more. There's no point. And like at the minute, a lot of people are are indecisive on whether to actually put material out because one, like I've been saying, like Key wants to still keep putting stuff out and that, and I've been like, oh well, I don't know because one, I can't play it. Two, you're only gonna get like a radio show support, and three, like obviously, I know it's good to have the support and things, but it's not the same as witnessing it live. And like I said to Key, I was like, I'd trade a Beatport #1 into witness like Vinny Vici play me song live at like fucking Tomorrowland or Creamfields like every day of the week without like hesitation. And for me, you know, an Armada release would be like the ultimate goal because, like as I was saying before, when I first started out, I was like, I want to try and play Victoria Warehouse. That for me at the start was my like very very end goal. Like that was my ultimate thing I wanted to do. And then like 4 months later, I managed to play, and I was like, this is fucking mad. And I was like, all right, the next thing the next end goal was to play abroad, and I was like, that's my main thing. And then I was in like Italy 6 months later, and then I was like, well, I don't know where to go now, like, or what to do. And just an Armada or reaching altitude releases is the main thing that I've got like my heart set on now, more than anything really. So
So that's a sort of interesting thing to think about for me, because I wonder, like I've heard interviews of guys where they've been in the same spot as you guys, where you're like, okay, I really want to keep, putting music out there consistently because I want to, stay relevant, so to speak. But at the same time, you're like, yes, the big guys might play on the radio show, but it's kind of a halfway house between nothing and having it played at Tomorrowland or having it played at a live crowd where you can see people's reactions. And
yeah,
it's interesting seeing that kind of dilemma that a lot of even all the biggest DJs have been saying. Like Afrojack has said, just nah, I'm not really going to release anything until after. Whereas a lot of the other guys are saying, we had that argument at first, but then we decided to carry on releasing. And I wonder if the music that for the past year or so, since we've been away from raves, and if it's another half year or whatever left of this, if that time, then when the next raves that come, the first raves back, all of that music that wasn't played at festivals is then going to get played at festivals, or is it going to be music that then been released at that
well, that's what I
point?
was meant to say. When I was like third point, and then fucking my mind was just like blank. And but like you said, by the time that's the third thing. People don't want to put anything out because like by the time a festival comes around and someone can play it, it's old news. It's like it's an old song then, and you're like, well, it's only just been played now, but it's been around for ages, and it's just
It's
you
really
just gotta find like
difficult.
a happy medium of it.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, it's funny when you put it like that, because you think about some of the biggest tracks out there. You think about like Camel Fat with Cola. If outside of like seeing them, because obviously it's their biggest track, but a lot of people were sort of playing it and playing mashups of it and different versions of it and remix and whatever. But to sort of, you don't really hear that track anymore, even though it was monstrously big. Losing It with Fisher, one of the biggest tracks ever in dance music,
That
but
he
you don't
didn't
hear
make.
it nowadays. It was just in that year and maybe the year after, and you'll hear it at his gigs, but you don't hear tons of different DJs still playing it. And so
No.
it is an interesting thing. Like, are we, still going to then hear all of this stuff that has never been played in a room, even a 50, 60, 70 capacity room, a side room at a rave? Or are we going to hear it on the main stages when things return? It's really sort of, it's difficult trying to gauge that and kind of see, because like you say, some of the tracks that you've made before and that you're probably working on, they're almost like your babies when you get it to a point where you're like, this could be the thing that breaks me. Like a lot of DJs where they go, this could be the thing that breaks me into the industry. and they're proper
Yeah.
happy with it. It's like, this is like gold dust to me. Like, I don't want to just chuck it out and just
There's
kind of
like a
forget about
there's
it and on to the next one.
like the stuff that I've got now, and I've sent it to like Chucky and What Boy, Chris Wise, all people like that, Tempo, Gusto, and they all like, yeah, it's sick, and I'm like, well, the fucking label doesn't see it like that, and they come back to you and like, yeah, like the production's solid and it sounds sick, and like I've sent Vinny Vici new stuff and that, and like it's mad the way they've given me their email and stuff, and I've got like a direct contact with Avrim now, and just send me stuff directly to them, but I just want it to be like where it hits me and I'm like, yeah, this is the one. And there's some stuff now where I'm like when I listen to it properly on the speakers and I'm like, fuck, this sounds sick. And I just want it, that's the main thing really. You just, that's what you want with all your music, and Goosebumps don't lie. So
So
but the amount of times I was like been through lockdown and I've said to my missus, I'm gonna do a new career. I can't be asked for this music. It's just been like a complete waste of time. But I've just been like, just been going to work and then keep my head down. I've been like, mainly now I'm just I want to focus more a bit on like my health and things like that as well. I've just been like smashing on like a diet and like fitness and stuff, and I'm like dead set on like getting where I want to be with that as well. So it's hard though. Like everyone said, like you go to like trying to, like everyone says, yeah, well you only need to train for an hour to do your fitness, but then trying to go to work all day and then fit like a few hours studio in, and then everything else in between. It is hard to manage, and
it's difficult, man. I mean, like you say, I mean, you know, it's so difficult when you've got to balance all these things. Like you say, you've got your long day at work, which can really drain you. You know.
well for me that's 10 hours on a computer anyway. So
Hmm?
I get in and I'm like, I fucking can't be arsed looking at a computer screen. I've just been on a computer for 10 hours and my eyes are stinging and fucking my ears are killing, and I'm like, oh.
This is the yes. I couldn't relate any more than I am right now, because the feeling for me is mutual. You sitting in front of a computer screen, the last thing you want to see is another computer screen. You just want to chill for the rest of the day. And it's the same for me, where like I'm a gardener, I got my gardening business, and a lot of it's heavy work. You know, my lawnmower is 60 kilos. A lot of my tools are pretty damn heavy, and if you're going around with them for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you're exhausted physically at the end of the day. So then to go and motivate myself to go and get in the gym for a couple of hours, it's like, like you're physically knackered. But then, I want to go and build my arms. I want to go build my chest. I want to, burn some calories. And, I'm burning
Well,
calories
like
at work.
I was like at that stage, and I was just like, I didn't feel like happy, and I wasn't doing as much music as I wanted to, and I was just like proper disinterested, and I was eating shit and just fucking drinking every weekend, and
I fell into that rut.
and it's so easy to fall into. And then like the other day, I hadn't had like chocolate in like a week, and I was like, I said to Lyd, I was like, I need chocolate tonight. Like I'm fucking eating chocolate. Like I need chocolate. And then I went for a run, and I was like, that whole run was for that chocolate bar. I was like, it's not worth eating anymore because the work you've got to do to burn it off is fucking terrible.
Yeah, you end up being like, you go for a massive run or whatever, and then like you say, you just eat, a little chocolate bar or whatever, and you're like, oh well, that's the run been pointless. Then it's like, oh Christ, yeah, it's
And salt and pepper chicken.
it's really difficult, man, because like you say, I've had that, and I think a lot of people have, where you know you've got the stresses of what's going on at the moment taking a toll on your mind, and kind of having that always in the back of your mind. Then you've got the fact that you still got to maintain a decent standard at work and make sure that your work is good. Then you want to be ideally getting down the gym. Of course you can't do that at the moment, so that gets everybody down as well. So then you got to go for your run or just do whatever at home. And then after
That's the
that,
same with gyms. Like people are like obviously you had all them guys like fighting for the gyms to open and like everyone's going mad. Like we can't do anything. The gyms are shut. But like to have good like fitness and mental health, you don't need the gym. It's exercise. Like just because a gym's not open doesn't mean you can't go for a run or get out on a bike or do things to like to stay active. Everyone just like uses lockdown as an excuse. Well, I couldn't do anything because it was lockdown, but you can literally create your future from your fucking laptop, and people don't see it like that. People don't see like the bigger picture of things. Like that's the why I miss events more, because when you go to like a festival with your mates and all that, or you meet people abroad and you're in a festival, like in a music festival, you see people like for the true person they like actually are. Like everyone is just the natural themselves at a festival, and you could go and see someone in a festival dressed in fucking blow up doll gear and all that, and then the week after he's sat in an office again, just like a normal person. But everyone can be themselves, and no one will fucking judge you at a music festival. But you step foot outside of a music festival, and it's a completely different universe.
mate, this is a huge topic for me because like this is the thing that nowadays bugs me more than anything about society, particularly more so, I think, society in the West, like in our country, in America, in Australia, these kind of countries. Because, like, my mom's side of the family is Hungarian, so it's kind of Eastern European. You go over there, people ain't like that. They couldn't give a shit. They're just happy that the 3 chickens in the back garden are still alive. You know what I mean? That's literally how people rate their happiness on a daily basis. Then you got people over here that they're fucking sad when they can't buy their 4th Balenciaga pair of shoes or coat, or they haven't got a rollie on their fucking watch on the wrist this week. And it's like, go on, get a fucking grip. Like, it's so sad that our society, it's so materialistic and it's driven to all this shit.
And it's like some of my mates, they love going to clubs and fucking having bottles, and I'm like, you're fucking
Oh
stupid. Like,
God.
you go into a club, like he was saying, they went out and it was the last time the clubs was open, and he paid like he was on the phone to his mate. He's like, yeah, it's 300 quid each for this table, and he was like, but you're not allowed. He was like, but you're not allowed to stand up. And I went, so you go into a
Oh
nightclub
God.
to pay 300 quid for the table, and you can't even fucking stand up. I was like, you're the dickhead.
It's insane. I mean, it's like this is what really fucks me off, and I think it's kind of a bit of a middle finger to the music that we listen to, in my opinion, because like this is why I don't like a lot of the mainstream stuff that you hear, the rap, the the pop, the R&B, all that bollocks, because it used to be pretty good, when you used to have like some of the guys I used to listen to. Yes, they were similar, but it weren't anywhere near as bad as it is now, where every single song you listen to on the radio, it's just about popping bottles and my fake titties and my this and that and my
It's like for
German
me
dick
now,
or
like
whatever. And
I've
it's like,
all I've noticed the way like I think that's why people they still like tech house, but it's like all I seem to hear is someone completely copyright an old rap vocal and then put like a tech house beat over the top of it, and I'm like, and people are like, it goes off, and I'm like, you just haven't got a clue, and you. And then like people say to me, yeah, but your music's dead easy to make, and I was saying to me, mate, I went, I guarantee you could not make at one of our tracks. I sent him a techno tune the other day, and I was like, it just took me 3 hours to make that. And I was like, it's literally nothing. I was like, it's a kick and bass and then adding and removing stuff. And I get why people like it, but just like all that sort of stuff, you've got chords, like I was saying, pads, everything. Like people don't see it like that. They just think, oh, this is too much for me, and I can't listen to this music. But like I said before, the people who like our music, like I want to go like a proper side chance frizzy, like the ones they have in Brazil and stuff, and
hey, have
like you
you
just
seen
look at,
some of them?
yeah, everyone's just like fucking pure loving life and couldn't care, and that, that's why you go in it. You just go and you just end up getting up to all sorts.
Well, this is the thing. This is why, like, every step of the way with dance music for me, I've just fallen more and more and more in love with it. And I'm at that point where I will do anything for it. Like, I'll die for it. I will do anything for it because it's that one type of music where you go to a festival, you go to a rave, whatever it is. It don't matter what you look like, don't matter what you're wearing. It don't really matter too much who you are. No one's judgmental in there. No one gives a shit. It's just about having a good time. It's one of the most beautiful environments to be in.
Yeah, it's like when I was first getting like into it, and the more like I was getting like more and more like actual shows at like Victoria Warehouse and like Liverpool, like Underground Liverpool and things like that, and I got offered to play like in Liverpool in like one of the clubs each week, and I was like, no, I was like, I don't want to be that type of DJ. Like, I don't want to go and play 7 hours worth of shit every weekend for 250 quid. I'd rather go and even get paid 50 quid and be able to play an hour of fucking music that I like. And I couldn't really care about doing stuff like that. Even if it meant me playing once a year, I'd rather do it because it's more enjoyable and you're enjoying yourself and you can just like be you.
Well, it's like I really do feel sorry for a lot of the lads that play the maybe the small clubs, the local clubs where it's not so much. I don't feel sorry in the sense I pity them. I feel sorry in the sense that I'd hate to be in a situation where I've got to go every Friday or Saturday night and play at a club where I've got to play the exact same set pretty much, maybe change the order in which I play the tracks, but the same tracks I've played for the last 51 weeks. I got to do
Yeah.
it all again, and it's like 50 Cent. What is it in the club? Uh, Chris Brown. Yeah. It's the same shit constantly through the night, every weekend for the year, and it's like how have you not gone insane? Like it's insane to me. But the thing that I'm hoping for more than anything, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I really hope that those places die off because I want to see a resurgence in where clubs go back to the way they used to be when you started going out and raving. Because clubs used to be, playing your dance music, playing more sort of your housey tracks, playing all of those sort of dance related stuff. Whereas nowadays, like you was just saying with the bottle service fucking clubs or whatever, it all revolves around that. And it's a crap
It's
experience.
like I think that the new Ben Nicky tune that's been like the first like I think he was saying like proper trance song that's been in like the normal charts for fucking years, and it's just like why just because it's not fucking Little Mix or something like that, and it's it's stupid. Like there should be like I think it was either Beatport or a 1001 track list, and they put out the other day, and it was like the most listened to genres, and there was still like stupid amount of people like listening to Big Room and
Really.
trance and things like that, and even just because it's not in your face all the time, it's still like it headlines Creamfields, it headlines Tomorrowland, it headlines Ultra, all the biggest festivals. I know obviously they have like sub stages and things like that, but I think probably getting on Creamfields would be a good goal as well. That'd be something good to tick off.
That's what I was going to come to. What would be like your dream gig? If you could, but I was to say to you, maybe not so much in the sense that we'd limit you, so this would be your only big gig you ever have, but this would be the one gig that you can go out there and sort of prove yourself to a big crowd, maybe the promoters of the country or whatever are kind of watching. Where would you be?
It'd be like obviously everyone's going to say Tomorrowland main stage, but like there's loads of places like some of the parties that they have in Asia and stuff like that's one of my main things as well is to try and get over there now and get in a few places over there. 'Cause some of the fucking clubs they have over there are mad and like Neon Countdown. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's like something that I want to tick off and like that looks sick. But definitely, it's good over anything. It'd obviously be Creamfields. It's like fucking Creamfields is like 5 minutes from my house. It's
you lucky bastard.
about 10 minutes from my house. It is.
Oh,
I could get a bus there. It's that close.
oh my God. Well, see, this is the thing. Like, this is what I was saying to the lads, and I'll say to you as well. Is you guys are so lucky. Like, you don't realise how lucky you are to even still have the scene that you have in Liverpool and in Manchester and sort of like the local area around there. Because we in Birmingham and like the Midlands, we used to be as big, if not bigger, back in 2012. Because we had Gatecrasher. I don't know if you remember Gatecrasher at all. We had that in Broad Street, like the main street of the city. And that was putting on some of the most ridiculous lineups you've ever seen. But even better than that, I mean, Broad Street is about 15 minutes from my house into Birmingham from here. But then 5 minutes down the road, like the same as Creamfields is to you, just down the road from me in a field was Global Gathering.
I know it's mad the way these. Well, I remember I went to EDC. Another funny story. When I was 17, again, it was when the Swedes done the last tour, and I got tickets for Milton Keynes Bowl, and I remember going into.
Was that 2013? Was it?
Yeah, 2013, I think. But when I went into work and I was like, I need this day off, like, and they were like, there's already people off, you're not having it, and I was like, well, I'm not coming in, like, I won't be coming in, and they were like, well, you won't have a job when you come back, and I went, and then like I came in work, I went back in work 2 days later, like as if nothing happened, and they were like, what are you doing there? And I was like, what do you mean I'm meant to be in? And they were like, fucking told you, if you went, you sacked, and I was like, sound.
Oh.
But I don't regret it, so I do not regret it.
I tell you what, mate.
Did you go to Rave Culture Night in Amsterdam?
Mate, I haven't been to Amsterdam yet.
Oh,
mate, well, honestly.
We went and it was like, we got the last tickets and it was like £30 a ticket, and it's like 10 minutes outside of Amsterdam where the Q Factory was, and there was like 5 of us who all went, 5 or 6 of us, and we had it up on maps, and I was like, there's no way there's a venue where it was like all a housing estate. And he was like, it's around the corner, and they literally had like a warehouse in the middle of this fucking big housing estate.
Really?
And you went in and it was like 30 quid, and the lineup was Andrew Mayall, Mark Sixma, Sub-Zero Project, Timmy Trumpet, Marcus Schultz, Jackson Vega, back-to-back Sabres. Jeez. And it was the first, my mate was in there, he was like, the security just said that the first special guest, Armin, and I was like,
what?
No way, Armin. I said, there's no way the first special guest going to be Armin. He's just played the Tomorrowland thing in the Ziggo Dome, and then it come up like first special guest, and it was Armin, and I was like, fuck. I was like, this is the best 30 quid I've ever spent in my life.
Jesus. What? Oh, mate. I'll tell you what.
The second special guest was Timmy and Aoki, and everyone in the main room was like, no, I want to see Timmy Trumpet and Aoki, and I said to me, mate, I was like, I want to go next door and see Mark Sixman. He was like, no, I'll come with you. So I went in there, and it was Mark Sixman back-to-back Andrew Rayal, and I was
my God.
I went back into everyone, and it was like, hey, you just missed out. And I was like, no, you just missed out.
You missed out. Oh, my God. Mate, honestly, I'll tell you what, the biggest regret, I think, out of anything.
That was one of the, apart from Tomorrowland, that was probably the second sickest event I've ever been in my life.
I think that's the biggest regret for me, is not ever going to Amsterdam and doing any of the raves.
The biggest regret I ever did was not going to the Armin only show in the Ajax ground.
In the what?
Oh,
right. Yeah.
He done that Armin only, and that was in the Ajax ground where AMF was, and that's like the biggest regret I have ever not gone to like an event.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, because the lineup for that rave culture night was stupid. And I was
Yeah.
that is probably the biggest regret that I really wish I had done that, because like the lineup for that was just unreal. I mean, I think I'm similar to you.
There was like Will
Um
Sparks and Blasterjacks and everything on as well, and it was
Stupid.
just like
It was
then like
ridiculous.
last it was like Blast Noise and White Noise back to back for 2 hours, and like I was speaking to White Noise and I was like telling it, like I was saying like songs to play, and like every next tune he'd just throw it in, and I was like, this is the best night ever.
Yeah, mate. I wish badly I could have been there, because I wish like I could have done that.
ADE's the place you need to go though. ADE's better than Tomorrowland.
Well, I've done Tomorrowland 2 years in a row now, so I did 2018 and 2019. Because I think I might have been there actually the weekend that you did the gig thing. But you're right.
Yeah, I don't know what she was looking for.
But yeah, man, I think I was there because you were there weekend too, weren't you?
Yeah, weekend too.
Which one did you did 18 and 19 as well, didn't you?
No, last year was not last year, sorry, the one, yeah, 19 was the first year I ever went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my first ever one. I
Oh,
was gutted as well because the Freedom Stage roof caved in as well, didn't it? So there was no Freedom Stage, and I was looking
that's a
forward to that more
bummer,
than the
that
main
is.
stage, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
fuck.
yeah. Oh, mate, because I got to do 2018 weekend two and 2019 weekend two. So I got to experience the Freedom Stage in 2018. It was nuts. It was ridiculous. But that fair enough to them. They set up a pretty good weekend two for that stage, because
Yeah.
you probably were there as well. I bumped into a load of Scousers when New Year was on the Sunday. So you might have been in that there.
I did see New Year, to be fair, but
That was
the
unreal.
lineup was sick. There was like Andrew Ray, Al Marlowe, and everyone, and it was like these would be so good inside. And that, like when we went to see Axwell, they'd shut like complete both sides. You couldn't get through and anything. Like there was that many people trying to go and see him. There was
I
like
remember
people
that.
stuck
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah. I was there.
tables and like climbing lampposts and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck?
That was such a shame. That was that they. Fuck me, they really could have been in the shit if that had come down.
It's
When
like the smaller main stage through the day. I was saying to my mates, like it's just like a normal stage, but of a night time, it's just like a completely different planet.
turns into a different world. It's literally like two different raves. It's insane. Because like you say, at night, all the effects come on, all the lighting really comes into effect, and you're like, oh my god.
I
Yeah,
know.
man. It's
It's like when last EDC, loads of people were like, "Oh, Eric Prydz is shit," and I'm like, "It's not that he's shit." I was like, "They just put him on the main stage after Alice in Wonderland with no lasers or anything." I
yeah.
was like, "It's like a light show." I was like, "You go and see his stuff for like the light show and the production side of things."
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you next then, who would you say, probably, and you can answer two different people if you want for this. First of all, who is your biggest inspiration at the moment? And then who would you say is your biggest inspiration overall?
So overall, it'd definitely be like Armin van Buuren or Vinny Vici for me. But like some of the smaller people now, like Jordan Suckley, DRYM, Avo, all people like that. Like all their stuff now is just like prop, like is what I love, and it's like fuck, this is sick, and that up there at the minute, that's the sort of like inspirations, but definitely like Vinny Vici and Armin, and
Have you seen Jordan before?
I've seen him years and years. I mean, like when he was at Creamfield, and after that, but I watched his set like when I was during lockdown. I was watching his set at Transmission, and I was like, "This is." It was just like pure tech chants, and I was like, "Fuck, this is sick."
Yeah, because I seen him. When did I see him? I think I seen him 2017. He played a gig in Birmingham. He headlined it with that, Jorn van Deenhoven.
Yeah.
And he headlined it with him, and I got to meet him at the end, and he was a really decent guy. Like, he's
Well, he lives on the Wirral, which is like
oh,
next to
really?
Liverpool. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's where he lives. So he lives in Ellesmere Port.
Yeah, because
So
he was a real sound guy. He was, but yeah, I think so. When you was bringing up earlier, like this brand in Birmingham that's still keeping things going trance wise, Anomaly. They've put on some amazing events. Like the last event I went to before this one that they did in August was on my birthday a year. It was 2019. I mean, nearly 2 years ago, and Chris Schweizer headlined it. Oh my god! Like
and you could see him.
I found him. I found him really early into me getting into dance music. Like I found him in 2013, I think, because there was a mashup that some guy did on the internet of his track with Adele, "Set Fire to the Rain." I think it was what the hell's it called now? I'll have to get it up. But my God, I've got it now, and I tell you what, as soon as the raves are open, I'm going to be playing it because he is an
Well, funny you should say,
unreal
I found one the
producer.
other day, and it was like I found it, and it's this Exis tune, and it's sick, and it's from like 6 years ago, and I was like, what? I wish I would have found that like 6 years ago or something.
Well, that Exis, he did. What's the remix he did of the Andrew Rayel tracks?
The Tucker done one, is it?
Once in a Lifetime Love. Oh, his remix of that is unreal.
He's done that. What's that? There's I think he's done a remix for Armin on something as well. That's sick.
I think I know what you're on about. He did a remix of
I'll have to
Armin
try
a
and
couple of
find
years
it.
ago. Versus Kraken. Have you heard that? Kraken.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a mashup of that with Adele Set Fire. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
He's like what? He's only one of the few people I've got like left to see now. There's
I
like a
got to
handful
meet
of
him.
people I want to see.
I got to meet him and we was chatting for a little while. But my God, his stuff is so good. Like he
Yeah,
is
he's
one
sick.
of the originals that's somehow not like he to me 7, 8 years ago when I discovered him and I discovered, Blaster Jack, Space Jack, as all these other guys, he was at a similar level to them then. He should be at the same level that they are now. Like Mark Sixma should be the same level that they are because they're unreal producers. Like the
Yeah.
tracks are stupid good. It's like that, what's his
I
name?
bought there's on that Fader Pro you can buy all like tutorials and stuff, Armada ones, and I bought the Mark Sixma, the clock, and it does like it takes you through the whole track, and I'm like, so the way he's made that song, and I'm like, it is fucking nuts.
He's an absolute genius. Like
He makes
everything
he
Mark
makes loads
Sixma
of stuff for
touches.
Armin though, doesn't he, as well? So
Who's that?
Mark Sixma makes loads of stuff for Armin.
I don't know. I'm not too sure. I mean, I found him probably when he did the. My favourite sort of first track that stood out to me and got me following him was his "Save My Night" remix that Armin did. Oh,
Yeah, the
oh
Marlowe
my
remix of
God.
that as well.
Oh, oh my God. That is unreal. And ever since then, I've been following him. But it's interesting, like how different DJs can have different styles. Like they don't even need to have an alias or whatever. They'll just do it under their name. Like Mark Sixma, for example, he'll do the heaviest big room
Anything.
bangers you've heard,
Yeah.
but then he'll play what's that bassy track he made recently?
Oh well, I know which one you mean.
It's like a
Um,
really beats
is it the
knock,
Anastasia? Oh,
beat,
Beats Knock, yeah.
and it's like that's so different to the heavy big room. Like everybody jump, it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like wow, like his sort of array of like where he can go and make unreal bangers is just mad.
I
You
know.
know what I mean? But he's crazy in like some of the stuff that he's brought out over the years. The next thing I was going to ask you is sort of in a rave that you've been to, it could be a rave, could be a festival, whatever. What would you say is, or is there a time that you can think of where you've gone, or you've just happened to be passing by a stage or whatever, or you've gone maybe to see someone with your mates, but you've not been particularly interested in them, and there's been a DJ that has surprised you and got you into their stuff,
Um,
where you've gone, I didn't think about this guy before, and now I've fallen in love with his stuff.
I think, I think when I was like first going to events and that, it was mainly like Hardwell or Steve Angelo, Axel and Grosso. It was all like big names, but I mean, I remember like the first time I ever heard Fatboy Slim, I was walking from, I think it was like Tiesto at Creamfields, and I was walking back to the campsite, and I remember just walking through the tents, and he was playing like, I can't think of what the song is. It was like that "Watch Out for This," "Oh My," and I was like walking through
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
tent,
yeah, yeah.
and there was like people with all lollipop sticks, and there was just like lasers going off, and I was like, and I ended up staying in there for like 20 minutes on my own before I even went back to the campsite, just loving life.
So what you'd say it's Fatboy Slim then?
Fatboy Slim, everyone likes Fatboy Slim. He's a legend. But like that's another thing. Like people always say, like, "Oh, I don't know. You can still listen to that music. Like, have you not grown out of it?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not being funny, but how old are the artists that you go and see? Apart from Martin Garrix, I wouldn't say there's anyone who's really young who we still go and see. Steve Angelo, Tiesto, David Guetta, Armin van Buuren. They're all pushing on. Carl Cox, Prince, people like that. They're not very many young, like big artists. And apart from like say Ollie James, like he's a year younger than me, and he's like done obviously loads of sick stuff, but you
I
can't
think
you
I
love
think
it.
that
You
might
can't
be
put
just.
an age on it.
I think that might just be the fact that these guys have been doing it from our age. So they've got 30 years in the game. So they've got 30 years of building fans, 30 years of tracks, of festivals, of people building memories with them. So, of course, they're going to be at the top. But I think what you'll find is that Vinny Vici, Blaster Jacks, Bass Jackers, all of these guys that are at their level that aren't quite Tiesto, Hardwell, David Guetta, Afrojack yet, that once those guys kind of move out, they'll just move into their place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so 10, 15 years time or whatever, when they're the age of that generation, the people will be coming into the raves just at that point. They'll be looking at them like gods, the way that we looked at Tiesto, David Guetta, Afrojack, all these guys. You
I
know what I
know.
mean? I thought I'd ask you as well, when realistically do you think me and you could next be at a rave?
In England,
Yeah.
definitely not this year.
Really?
I don't think so.
No.
Because I said this all along, like I don't get how everyone's still so surprised that they can't go to events yet because it's gonna take a year to roll a vaccine out. We didn't even have a vaccine. Then obviously you've got to get people to take it.
Mm.
And it's like apart from I just don't get how like Asia and Taiwan, which are like 3 times the size of England, managed to beat it without a vaccine. But everyone seems to think the vaccine is the answer to like everything. And I'm like, I've seen a thing on the NHS thing. You can literally go on the NHS thing about the COVID vaccine, and it says you could still catch it and you can still pass it on. And I'm like, what's
Yeah,
the
of course. Yeah,
fucking
of course.
point?
Yeah, of course. But it's like this is the funny thing as well. Like the argument that never ever seems to come up and no one ever seems to think about. It's got a less than 1% death rate, and that's according to what they say. And if you look at the
Yeah,
news and you look at the government and sort of what they're putting out, they're not trying to ease people. They're just putting out shit that's scaring old people or anybody who will believe it. So they're trying
no.
to put across the worst possible scenario. And the worst possible scenario of what they're saying isn't bad. If less than 1% of the people are dying, and that's the worst case scenario, then it's not that fucking bad. Like, seriously.
It's like what Sweden done. Sweden basically said all the elderly and all the people with health conditions use it in lockdown. Everyone else get on with your fucking life, and to me, that's how it should be. It might sound harsh and it might sound selfish, but
Not at all. Not at all. Because at the end of the day,
that's
I mean, like I say, with my gardening business, as you could probably imagine, I visit a lot of sort of elderly people and pensioners
yeah.
and people like that. And, there's a fair few couples that I visit, but most of the pensioners I visit, they're widows. And so they, all of them, I'm telling you now, and I visit hundreds of people throughout the year, all of them say to me, look, Michael, at the end of the day, we don't want, or I don't want, to be taking away from my children, my grandchildren's, futures and opportunities. And they've all said how this is just driving their opportunities, their life experiences, everything into the ground. And they've said, like, there's a lady I visit, she's 91. She's got two sisters. One's 91 as well, and the other's 94. And she said to me, look how old we are. Like, we've been around for so long. We've had amazing lives. If we die tomorrow, we die tomorrow. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's like, we're not seeing just babies dying everywhere. We're not seeing people
Well, it's mad. I
your
just
age
don't get
dying
how, like,
everywhere.
at the start, it was like media with like everyone was fucking dying in the streets, and then now it's just like they've said now it's anyone who's had a case in the past 60 days. So I'm like, so basically, if I was positive with coronavirus 3 weeks ago and then get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm still gonna go down as a stat, and I'm like, nah.
But this is it. I mean, you heard about it more so initially when things started. I think the social medias and whatnot, they're trying to sort of clamp down on anybody posting anything about it that disagrees with the government. But I heard so many different stories of people having to take their loved one who had sadly died to get or take them back to the hospital because the hospital had declared that they had died from the virus, even though they'd been in a car accident and they'd lost a leg. It's like,
It's mad, isn't it?
what when they were bleeding out? Is that when the virus took a hold of them, or it's just insane to me. It's the worst thing about it is the fact that it's destroying the lives of people that it will not affect. It will not kill me. It won't kill you.
It's like
It
they keep
won't
doing this
kill the vast
lockdown thing,
majority of
and
people out there.
it's doing my head in. They're like, yeah, well, we'll let you out for a bit, and then it's back in lockdown, and then they're like,
Yeah.
well, every time we let you out, the cases go up. Well, fucking yeah, because people are socialising, of course they're going to go up. Like, it's just fucking common sense. If you put a bad piece of fruit with a good piece of fruit, it's going to make it bad. It's fucking,
Yeah,
that's just common sense, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like initially, like, I don't know if you remember back in March, nearly a year ago now, they said to us, 3 weeks, flatten the curve, 3 weeks, and then you're back to normal. We are nearly a year later, and we're still pissing away our lives. We've got things to be getting on with here. We've got kids. I got a nephew that's a young lad. He's recently started primary school. They want to be going out there and enjoying playing with their mates after school and be doing all these things that we got to do when we was younger at that age. You got kids that are turning 18 that they want to be going out and mixing with their pals, having a good time, making the memories that me and you got to make, that our parents got to make. All these different people that are now saying, oh, stay home. And you get different people of all different generations saying, stay home, protect this, do that. It's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you have experienced going out when you was a young person, mixing with people, courting, and getting to know women and having a wife, having kids and doing all that. If we stay in this current situation, the kids, that are younger than us, and even me still, because I'm still on the hunt, we're never going to be able to go out there and carry on mixing with people, getting to know people, building relationships, building friendships, and building a life for ourselves. This will never end unless people say it ends. Because this is just a revolving fucking door now, and not a lot of people notice this. Like, I was under the impression a few months back of, okay, cool, they're announcing that there's going to be a vaccine. Everyone that wants to have the vaccine will have it. then we can go back to normal. No, that's just not going to be the case. I've come to the point where, like, that's not going to be the case because they're announcing, oh, there's a new strain down south and then there's a new strain coming from Brazil. We're going to do a world tour. We're going to have one from Croatia. We're going to have one from China. We're going to have one from Afghanistan. And we're just going to do another lockdown for 3 months or whatever. It's like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not pissing away 10, 20, 30 years of my life so you people can just fanny about with it. And I'm not letting you doing it to my family members or my friends. Like, we have lives to live. This will keep going on. Because you see, what they'll do is the vaccine doesn't work for the Brazilian strain. It doesn't work for the other strain from down south. So what we'll do is we'll wait another year now until there's a vaccine developed for that. And then when there is one developed, oh, wouldn't you look at that? You know, there's one coming from the North Pole now. We've got to get the vaccine developed for that as well.
I know. But I think I'm going to have to shoot anyway, son. But
yeah, sound. Well,
it's been a pleasure, and thanks for asking me to do it as well. So
it's been really good to talk to you, mate. I just wanted to end it just quickly. I wanted to ask you one last thing. Just one sec. Where we go? Where ideally, say for example, I don't know. I guess the one question I'd ask you is, what would you put out there now to producers, DJs, guys in our scenario that are sort of struggling at the moment? What is like the one piece of advice you'd give them, whether it be sort of like coping with mental health, trying to motivate themselves to, you know, produce tracks, make mixes? What would you say to them?
Just be, the main thing is, I'd say to anyone is just find something that makes you happy. Like, if it doesn't make you happy, don't do it and avoid it. And like, obviously mental health and everything at the minute, everyone's, you mention it and everyone's like, oh, like you feel weird like when you mention it, like as if it's a bad thing. And like, I think that's why a lot of people don't tend to talk about it. And like, it's the same with me though. Like, I'll just get to that point where I just like burst or something, and the main thing obviously is just to keep checking on your mates. And like, just I've got people on Instagram I've never even met before, I don't even know, but they post like music stuff and I like it. Like, it takes nothing to like someone's post or to share something. But anyone who's like struggling and that, I just do it. Find something you love and do it, and just commit to it, and good things will happen. And that's just, you've just got to keep having that mindset, because it's not always good. Like, you spend all this many months in the studio to get material, and then it could be another 8 months now before I can play it to anyone. But you've just got to keep it in your head that there's going to be better days, and that's the only thing you can do. And
I think a big thing that helps is sort of seeing people like you on my social media getting the number one, seeing other people on social media that you're mates with or that you relate to doing well. That keeps you going. So stay connected with your community.
It's like when I see some of the lads now, like, it doesn't. I'm like, it's definitely. I'm not saying like I'm jealous, and I hope obviously they all do well. But like, you look at them and you think, see, I know I can do that, because I've seen them go from doing this shit stuff and being just another fish in the pond, and now obviously making like big moves and stuff like that. And that's the main thing. You just gotta keep chipping away at it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, for some people, like, people always say it. Oh, well, some people are talented and things like that. Like, to me, like, unless I was making tunes like Colin when he was like fucking 18 or 19, like, you don't just make songs like that if you haven't got any talent about you. Like, it just physically doesn't happen. Like, when I was 18, I wouldn't even know how to open the fucking computer. Never mind, like, make something like that. And but yeah, anyone who's struggling and that, just keep your mindset, just keep happy, and don't slope off.
Yeah, mate, it's difficult to in these times, but I mean, I think you You and Kieran are a better example than most of you can still make success even when the world is literally upside down. You know, these guys have had a number
I
one.
literally turned up to Keys and I was like, we'll do this tune together. And I was like, I've got this melody, and I've still got on my phone now a voice recording, which was just a bit, just me singing that on the toilet in my phone. And I was like, but I want it to sound sick. And then he was like messing about with like sounds and that, and then we heard it, and I was like, yeah, that's the one, that's the lead and the sound that's gonna make it sick. And I was like, it's fucking mad that I've made this voice note on the toilet, and now it's fucking default #1.
That's class. But that's it. You guys are a number one example that you can get success even when the world is upside down. Like, you've hit a Beatport #1 when there's literally no hope in sight almost. So there's proof that even when everything looks negative and
The
everything.
best thing is, like, I sent it to their label and everything, and they were like, "Nah, we don't like it." And I was like,
Really?
like to Vinny Vici's label, and then they've played it like twice already, and I was like, "Fucking said you didn't like it when I tried to get used to sign it."
Nuts, man. But always keep pushing, I'd say, even when you feel like there's no hope, because at the end of the day, that's how I felt when it came to getting gigs. I just, and I think
Yeah,
it's the same thing with you guys. You don't feel like there's much on the horizon, but you end up with a #1 just like that.
yeah.
Nice
But
one. Cheers
thanks
for
for that anyway, mate.
cheers
No
for the chat,
worries.
pal.
It's my pleasure,
We'll have
son.
to do another one soon. All right, man. Take
Yeah,
care, man.
definitely. Look after yourself,
Take it
mate.
easy, brother.
See you later.
See you later, man.